Let's talk about our democracy for a minute. But let's do it in a way that makes the snowflakes' heads explode. Let me be clear before this podcast begins. We are loud, proud, and do not give a fuck. This is the Tony Michaels Podcast. Real and raw political and social commentary. The freedom to oppress the rights of other people is not liberty, you shit-eating moron. Ah, the smell of freedom of speech. This is the Tony Michaels Podcast, and this is Tony Michaels. Hey, Tony, fuck 'em.
Welcome to the show. Happy Hump Day. Today's Wednesday, 3 o'clock Central, 4 o'clock Eastern. You know what time that is. Time for Let's Talk, the Tony Michaels Podcast. I am the Tony Michaels. We have a great show for you today. As always, today our guest is Jeremy London. You guys might know Jeremy from Mallrats, Seventh Heaven, Party of Five. You know, the 90s heartthrob, Jeremy London. We got an interview with him in the second hour. But in the first hour here, we are definitely going to get to voting rights. They are debating right now on the floor. Republicans are having a fucking hissy fit about the Democrats possibly carving out a rule to make sure that every American, including their fucking constituents, not just fucking Democrats. This is the dumbest fucking thing that I've ever heard in my goddamn life. This shit that Republicans think that Democrats want to carve out part of the filibuster to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act and the Freedom to Vote Act, so that way Democrats can only vote. Get the fuck out of here with that shit. What the Democrats want to do is make sure all Americans can vote. That's the point. The point is to figure out what the hell's going on in this country, and we can use the democratic process to do that. And that means making sure that everyone secures the right to vote, whether you're Republican, Democrat, male, female, black, white. It doesn't fucking matter. Everyone should vote. Everyone out here is pissed off about the minority ideology having huge swaths of the country to oppress what the people want. We're fucking sick of it. It's enough of that shit. The majority ideology in this country should be in control. That is how it works in a democracy, especially a republic. And they want none of that. They don't want people to vote. They know what happens if people fucking vote. They know what happens. Because they know that we know that their ideas fucking suck. So we're going to get to that. And right now, Roger Marshall of Kansas, that fuck, is probably talking about, American families and Democrats are evil for wanting people to vote and carve out the rule for voting. I mean, we carved it out for the Supreme Court, but we can't carve it out for people that actually receive one of the most important rights they have in this country. Get the fuck out of here with that fucking shit. So we're going to get to that. But first off, I want to take some business here. I believe it seems like to me that today is going to be the last Wednesday afternoon that we have the podcast. You guys know we've been talking about this for several weeks, that we're going to move the podcast to every single day. Every single weekday, Monday through Friday, just like we do the Shit List Roundup. Same time, noon Eastern, 11 Central, but we're going to go 2 hours every single day instead of an hour. And the first hour will be the Shit List Roundup, kind of like what we do here and like what we do over there on the Shit List Roundup. And the second hour we'll reserve for all the great things that we do, like the interview with Jeremy today. It's fantastic. He talks about how Stan Lee came on the movie of Mallrats. You guys got to check it out. Again, it's in the second hour today. But it's such a great interview. Such a fantastic interview with Jeremy. Because the reason why we had Jeremy on about politics is because Jeremy's lived in several red states in his life. And he's kind of been a blue dot in a red state. He also lived in blue states. So he has a unique perspective, I think, of being a blue dot in a red state. I know a lot of the listeners out there are blue dots in red states. So I thought it was important to have him on. And also, the guy has met Stan Lee. He was on screen with Stan Lee. It's pretty fucking cool. And there might be some breaking news in the interview as well. So check that out in the second half. We really appreciated Jeremy coming on. We had a lot of fun. The other piece of business is that the Bonehead of the Week. We used to air that during the weekend. Me and Gabe did the Bonehead of the Week. We had the Bonehead of the Week poll. Speaking of that, you should go over and follow at Tony Michaels Pod. That's where the poll is at. That's where you can find it every week to vote so that you get your voice heard, because we like democracy here. So we put a poll up every single week you can vote on. But go vote over there. But the Bonehead of the Week part of the show will also be part of that 2-hour show every single day. We're going to put it on Friday afternoon in the second hour. So every Friday, second hour will be Bonehead of the Week. So you guys won't lose anything. Nothing. You're going to have the shit list roundup. You're going to have the podcast. You're going to have interviews. We're still going to have people like Michael Popak pop in. Rachel Bitcoffer. I don't know. I know you guys know her from last week's interview. We're talking about trying to get her in more often every week to give us election updates and what's going on out there with the data and the election and what's going to happen with the midterms. We're hoping to get a few more people on to do some pop-ins. Gabe will keep popping in, so it's going to be a fantastic opportunity. And I really want to thank you for listening and supporting the show, liking, commenting, sharing. The audience is growing. More and more people are watching, which is fantastic. And I really do appreciate all the support. And if you want to support the show, you can go to thetonymichaels.com. There's the merch stores there. You can also go to the podcast upgrade fund, because that is the other thing that is going to change about the podcast being every single day, 2 hours a day, every single weekday, noon Eastern, 11 Central, starting next Monday, is that it's going to air on YouTube with the Shit List Roundup live, which the Shit List Roundup is normally on Twitter and Twitch, but now it's going to be on YouTube. The other difference, the other great thing, is you will actually be able to download every single day an episode of the podcast, of the show, with the Shit List Roundup in it, on all the directories. So Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you download the podcast now, you're not just going to get the podcast once a week. You're going to get it every single day, because we're going to win in 2022. I don't care how hard I got to beat the ground and yell into this microphone. We're going to activate. We're going to get people engaged. We're going to stay pissed. We're going to go fucking vote, because Democrats deliver and Republicans destroy. So we have to have strategic outrage. And that's going to be what we're going to do. I give no fucks, and we are going to have the fuck 'em attitude the whole way through. So stay tuned. Again, so the rest of this week, tomorrow we'll do the Shit List Roundup 1 hour show. Friday we'll do the Shit List Roundup, plus we'll do Bonehead of the Week. So that'll be a 2 hour episode. But starting next Monday, every single weekday. So we're moving the schedule of the podcast from Wednesday, 3 o'clock Central, 4 o'clock Eastern, to every single weekday, noon Eastern, 11 Central, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. It'll be able to be downloaded on all your directories. The one that you're downloading it on right now, you will be able to download an episode every single day. If you watch it on YouTube, it'll be there. Twitch, it'll be there. It's all going to be there. 2 hours every single day. Now, here in just a minute, we're going to go to, right now, Bob Mendez is speaking on the floor, the senator from New Jersey. But let's go to a break. We'll come right back, and I might show some of this debate on the floor of the Senate for the Voting Rights Act. Don't go anywhere.
What the fuck is wrong with you people? It's a rhetorical question at best. We'll be right back on the Tony Michaels Podcast.
I've always wanted to learn a new language, but whenever I try, it never sticks. So when Babbel made a MAGA edition, I knew I had to give it a try. Babbel MAGA edition makes it really easy to learn, and there's lots of lessons to choose from, like subtly racist to full-blown white supremacist. The first lesson began with learning simple phrases, and soon I was putting those words and phrases into a conversation. Each lesson takes about 10 to 15 minutes to complete, and they're all really different, which keeps things interesting. The app is really smart. It actually keeps track of the words that I'm struggling with. I chose Babbel MAGA edition because it's created by smart white people, like me. And now I can't wait to explore, meet new friends, and use my new MAGA skills with my in-laws. All lives matter!
Fuck 'em. Fuck 'em. Fuck 'em. Fuck 'em. Fuck 'em. Fuck 'em. We're back to the Tony Michaels Podcast.
Welcome back to the show. Thanks for sticking with us through the break. We got a great show today. The first thing I want to do is I want to take you to the floor of the United States Senate here. You can see we have the New Jersey, one of the senior New Jersey Senator, Bob Menendez, speaking right now. Let's listen in for just 1 second and see what he has to say about what's going on with the floor of the Senate.
I've heard our Republican colleagues question, well, why after record turnouts in the last presidential election would we feel the need to revisit voting rights legislation? Well, the answer is pretty simple. If Republicans systematically were not tearing down the laws that gave rise to the record turnouts, then maybe this wouldn't be necessary. But that's exactly what they have done in state after state. Voting rights used to enjoy broad bipartisan support here in the Senate. Indeed, Republicans and Democrats stood together for decades to reauthorize the Voting Rights Act, most recently in 2006. In fact, I want to quote one of my colleagues on the day of the last reauthorization. He said, quote, "America's history is a story of ever-increasing freedom, hope, and opportunity for all. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 represents one of this country's greatest steps forward in that story."
So there you see the United States Senate is debating the Voting Rights Act, but more importantly, they're debating rather to carve out an exception for the voting rights bill of the filibuster, which Republicans are pushing back on hard. So is Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, the two Democrats, because here's the thing. The reason why Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema are pushing back on the carve-out of the filibuster is because they know what's going to happen if it's carved out. They can't vote against the Voting Rights Act. Republicans can because they're fascist. Like they can because they're fascist. Their constituents out there do not want people of color. They don't want Democrats voting. They're fascists. That's what they are. But the Democrats are here standing on the floor of the Senate wanting a carve out of the filibuster because the fascists won't extend and make sure to codify voting rights through the John Lewis Voting Rights Act and the Freedom to Vote Act on the floor of the Senate. Because Democrats are the party of democracy. They're the only party that wants everyone to vote. You even have a very good example of this in the city of New York. The city of New York is trying to make sure that the citizens of their city, regardless of their status of American citizenship, but the people who live in the city had the opportunity to vote on municipal issues. And Republicans are pushing back saying, oh, no, you can't let illegal aliens vote. But they're citizens of the city. They live there. They pay taxes. They patronize businesses. They work there. What the fuck are you talking about? This, again, the reason why we have the strife that we have in this country isn't because we're divided. It's not. We're not divided 50-50. There's about 12, 13% of this country that has lost their goddamn minds. Lost their motherfucking minds. And for 4 years, really 5 or 6 years, they supported the embodiment of that fucking craziness in Donald Trump and his candidacy and then his administration. And kowtowed to that motherfucker for 4 years and still is kowtowing to this stupid bastard. They're still perpetuating this big lie that somehow the election was stolen. We're over 400 days past the goddamn 2020 election, and they still think they're going to overturn it. We're almost to the next one. Like the next one. Like what 2033? Are we going to fucking still be talking about 2020 and how it's going to overturn? That's what they're focused on. And Democrats here on the floor of the Senate, well, 48 of them, are concentrated on making sure that everyone that has the right to vote in this country can get to the ballot box and they can use their power that they have through the Constitution to vote for the representatives that they want to vote for, and the state representatives that they want to vote for, and the local issues and the local elections that they want to vote in. That's it. They're just trying to secure the right of everyone, all of them, every motherfucker, to vote. And we had the Republicans, all of them, every last one of the fascists standing in the way of voting. Not one voted for the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. And frankly, I think we should make Election Day a national holiday and call it John Lewis Day. There's no person, I believe, in their long lifetime that did more for voting rights in this country and gave more blood, literal blood, sweat and tears in his service to his country, inside government and outside government, than John Lewis. And for these Republicans and the two Democratic senators to shit all over the legacy of John Lewis here is fucking despicable. Because I know exactly what John Lewis would be saying today, what MLK Jr. would be saying today. Because yesterday, these fucking idiots, all the Republicans and the two fucking Democratic senators gave their little statements about how MLK Day and all this bullshit. And then they come on the floor today and shit and spit all over voting rights in this country. This is not difficult to understand. The reason why the GQP does not want people to have the right to vote is because they know their fucking ideas suck. Because they have none. I mean, besides make sure women don't have liberty and everyone has guns, and fascism, authoritarianism. They want to worship the orange deity. They want to pray at the altar of MAGA. It's deluded. It really is fucking dumb, but that's the situation that we're in this country because you can't get rid of an idea. And in democracy, sometimes we have to come to grips with that. That yes, we're going to have different ideas all the time. Even in the Democrats, we do this to ourselves. We fight ourselves. You know, I already brought up Manchin and Sinema here. But we do this, right? In democracy, you have different ideas, and people are allowed to have different ideas. Now, you can't be seditious or treasonous. You know, you might get charged in a federal court for that, trying to overturn the Constitution of the United States. But you can't have a different idea. So fascism is not going to go away. It's an idea. We can't get rid of fascism. It only sleeps. Isn't that funny how the fascists call everyone else the woke mob, but it's actually fascism that woke up? That's what happened. Fascism awoke. And we have to deal with it now in this country. It was a long time awaking because they thin-veiled it with conservatism for all those years. But here we are dealing with it now. And we will continue to deal with it until we do something in democracy. And it's going to take another couple cycles. A lot of people saying, oh, this is the most important cycle. Your 2020 was the most important. 2016 was the most important. 18 was the most important. 2022 is the most important. Yeah, the next election cycle is always going to be the most important here. It's going to be the most important. Until we can get in a situation where we can be sure that our democracy is safe from these fucking boneheads. Because they don't just not believe in democracy. They want to use our democracy to tear it down. They want to get rid of it from the inside out. That is what happened in Nazi Germany. In the 1920s and the 1930s, the Nazi Party tried a violent overthrow of the government. Like maybe an insurrection on January 6th. I'm just saying. And it didn't work. Their leader went to prison, wrote a book. came out and decided, you know what we should do instead of doing the violent takeover of government? We should just take over government by the democratic way. We'll just take over the government. We'll just become part of the government. And when we become part of the government, we'll just take over the government from the inside and destroy it from there. And that's their plan. They're broadcasting it. The people who planned the January 6th insurrection, the Cheeto Dust Kangaroo coup, those motherfuckers, they're on the air every day on Bannon's Trader TV. Every day. Every single day, yelling and screaming about what they're going to do. Their next coup plan. Their next coup plan is to take the House. And they keep saying Donald Trump's going to be the speaker. Like, this is the Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Joe Kent, who isn't a congressperson now but wants to be. You know, Joe Kent in Washington's third. He's a kooky QAnon wackadoo. It's kind of like if you took Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz and, you know, had him do it up and have a baby and it grew up to be Joe Kent. Yeah, that's him. Same guys. They're all the same motherfuckers. Seditious. They hate the Constitution. They don't want freedom. And they use the Constitution, freedom, and the flag to try to sell it like it is that. It ain't. Get the fuck out of here with that shit. You ain't no patriot and think that January 6th was some kind of fucking tour of the Capitol. And then complain about political prisoners when there's 11 Proud Boys, which there's bound to be more, charged with seditious conspiracy to overthrow the Constitution of the United States, when we all know that's what happened. But this is their goal, is to take over the government. Because I don't think they want Donald Trump to be speaker, folks. They're going to pull 180. They're going to pull 180. They're going to let their rabble-rouser be the Speaker of the House. That's right. Steve Bannon's plan is to be the Speaker of the House. That's right. You heard it. They'll make Steve Bannon the Speaker of the House. And if you don't see the danger in Steve Bannon, sloppy, scabby Steve being the Speaker of the House, they'll do it. It's delusional. It's ridiculous. But they don't care. When did they care the 4 years that the Trump administration was in office? When did they care about delusion or ridiculous? When? When did they give a fuck? Not one fuck did they give the entire 4 years. They did whatever the fuck they wanted to do, whenever the fuck they wanted to do it. And they'll continue to do that if we let them have power in 2022. So it is super important for us to have strategic outrage here and aim the voting rights bill directly where it needs to be aimed. Because we have to stay pissed and we have to go fucking vote. Even if we don't get this voting rights bill. Now, we're going to see what happens tonight. Apparently, they're going to maybe do some voting tonight on these bills and see if they can carve out the filibuster. Maybe a deal can be made. It doesn't appear that way, but we'll see. But if we get in a situation where we can't get the voting rights bill, either the Freedom to Vote or the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, to help protect the right of people to vote for this midterm cycle, to make sure we can save democracy, because Democrats are the only ones that are delivering here. Republicans destroy everything. They destroy everything. They're destroying voting laws in all these states. Not only do they want to take away your fucking drop box, do they want to take away your polling places, they want to make sure if you don't vote the way they want you to fucking vote, that they can overturn it and then vote the way they, make sure they can dictate how you're supposed to vote. Because that's how it works, right? In democracy, you vote and then someone else says, no, you made a mistake, dumb fuck. You don't get to have what you want because we're in power. Well, what the fuck is the point of voting? And that's what Democrats are trying to say here. That's what they're trying to say. Is it super important to protect the right to vote? Because democracy is important. Because we must get to a point in this country where the majority of ideology reigns. The power of government. Whatever that may be, whatever that means. We're not all going to be satisfied with the government that we have, with the politics of it. but we have to make our government resemble our fucking country. And it doesn't. Not just the federal government, but the fucking government in general, state, local. And here, let me give you an example here of what I'm talking about, because this is important here. Of what I'm talking about. Senator Ron Johnson, speaking of senators and debating, let me see if I can pull this up here real quick. Sorry about that. I should have had that ready. So here is, let me make this bigger so you can see it. This is Ron Johnson. There we go. I said tone deaf motherfuckers. Ron Johnson did a poll on his page. This is fucking real. I did not make this up. I screenshot this. And this was from a few hours ago, I believe, an hour or so ago. Here was his poll. This is what he says. Ron Johnson. He says, do you want to implode the filibuster so Dems can ram, I like that, ram their voting rights legislation through Congress? Ram it through Congress. You mean vote on it? I don't understand what the fuck he's talking about. You mean vote on it, right? Like, you mean vote to make sure your constituents have the right to vote. People really are fucking stupid. Ron Johnson puts this poll. Look at this fucking poll. At the point that I screenshotted this, there was 181,000 votes. Now, I think he ended this thing. And I don't know why he hasn't deleted it yet. Because it really does show how fucking tone deaf they are. Like, this isn't, some scientific poll and that sort of thing. But look at this. Look at this fucking thing. Yes, let the Dems win. 96%. You really are a dumb motherfucker, Ron Johnson. You are so fucking stupid to put a poll up like this, and then to think that you go to fucking Moscow and kowtow with Putin on 4th of July and we ain't on to you. Get the fuck out of here with that shit. This is what we're up against, folks. This is what we're up against. These morons. Morons. Sorry about that. So I'm going to go back to the Senate floor here, and I'm going to keep an eye on it. And we will keep an eye. We're going to bring Gabe in here in just a little bit, and then we'll get to the interview with Jeremy London. Again, Jeremy gives us great insight to blue dots and red states, and I know a lot of you out there are blue dots and red states, and you get frustrated with that because, it's this whole minority rule thing. But look, a lot of these states aren't red. Texas is not red. Georgia is not red. That's what the Republicans know. That's why they're trying so hard to block these voting rights bills, is because they know what's going to happen. They know that they're going to have people realize, like they did in Georgia, that if I just go vote the way I want to vote and everyone else does that it's not a red state. It's not. The majority of people who would vote in those states would vote for democracy, not fascism. The American people aren't dumb. There is a certain percentage, but most American peoples aren't fucking stupid. They understand there's one party out there that wants you to have a decent wage, that wants you to have decent fucking health care without having to go fucking broke, that wants you to be able to afford to go to college if you want to go, or a fucking trade school. They want your children to start school at the age of 3 instead of 5. They want to make sure that roads and bridges and government buildings and government property is taken care of, and the infrastructure for utilities, rather that be the power grid, Texas, or rural high-speed internet. That there's only one motherfucking party. Only one. Only one that gives a shit about the inflation that's going on, that wants to extend the inflation protection through the child tax credit. There's only fucking one party. Only one. The other party, all they give a shit about is taking away women's liberty, giving everyone guns, and giving the richest motherfuckers in this country tax cuts. That's it. What other fucking policy do they have? What else? You fucking tell me. You try to convince me of something else. I doubt it'll work. Stay right here. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back. Mark, 60 seconds. This is the Tony Michaels Podcast.
Are you numb and alone after storming the Capitol? Have you been left out in the cold after stealing Nancy Pelosi's mail? Do you feel exposed to a government that doesn't share your patriotic values? If any of these describe you, then you're in luck. Hi, I'm Paul Gosar, and thanks to my new product, Pardon Blanket, I've got you covered. Pardon Blanket specifically works to make you feel safe and cozy after your involvement on January 6th. And if you're one of the other members of Congress who also helped with the attempted coup, Pardon Blanket will protect you too. Pardon Blanket is made of a sort of soft fleece and a layer of sheep's wool. And they're 100% made in the USA. Don't delay and get your Pardon Blanket today for just $99.99. Actual pardons not guaranteed.
The Tony Michaels Podcast. Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central. Watch live on YouTube, on Twitter and Twitch. Download on Apple and Spotify. Now, here's Tony.
Welcome back to the show. I'll get off my voting rights soapbox for a minute. Maybe we'll get back on. I'm sure Gabe has a few things to say about what's going on the Senate floor right now. Gabe, have you been watching or paying attention? Are you still working over there?
No, it's working in the background. I have not. I watched a little bit of it, and then I had some work to do.
Gotcha.
Have they? I know that the consideration of carving out the bill was what's happening. What's going on?
Well, right. So they're working on debate the voting rights bill, the two bills, because it seems like there might be some votes tonight. I'm not sure what and if they're going to bring anything to the floor. Like we were talking earlier on this morning's show. They definitely want to get them on record now. Rather, we kind of went back and forth whether that's. Does it help in the moment? Probably not. Right. Legacy and, maybe later on down the line, long term for other elections, that might be something that helps. But
yeah,
in the moment, I don't know that does much.
Yeah, I don't think right now, in the short term, I don't think it helps in terms of having them vote no. But I think the long term, there's at least some, I don't know. There's this whole question of accountability and proving one's position later on to use it as kind of ammunition against them. And so I wonder if that's, right now it won't do anything. It's not going to change any minds, but maybe, as the midterms approach, it is something that can be potentially used.
So you're thinking that because I'm not sure I buy that quite, but what you're saying is that by getting them on the record now, by the midterms, that may be something that the Democrats can use to show that, hey, they don't want you to vote and stir up because I mean, honestly, that's the way we win in 2022 is just to pile them underneath a mountain of votes.
Right. And I think right now, obviously their attempt at suppressing the vote for the midterms in 2022, there needs to be some, I was saying, some sort of accountability. I don't think it's going to happen right now. I don't think that they're going to prove anything right now. But as the midterms do approach, they're going to be using that at least in some way against them. It's not going to be the thing that's going to twist their arm and be okay, fine, I will change my ways as a Republican or as Manchin and Sinema. But I do think there is something there, at least to have some sort of record to be these fucks just tried to fuck you over, right? They have no way of supporting your rights as a constituent or supporting your any of your I don't know what the right word is. I guess best interests, right? At heart.
Well, because we talked about this earlier. You got a lot of fans here. MJ says, "Oh,
well.
Gabe."
Hey,
And Kat says, "Yeah, Gabe."
Hi.
They like Gabe coming on the show. But I think the as far as what we were talking about earlier, and what I was trying to say in the last segment is that Democrats are the only party that want everyone to vote. Yeah. Everyone. Like I don't want just a certain group of people to vote. Like my interest in voting rights has nothing to do with only Democrats voting.
Right.
But it is becoming more and more clear, and I don't know how many fucking times it has to be said and what they have to show their cards here, that they don't like voting rights. And the reason why is because they know if more people vote, it's not good for them to be in power. And so instead
if the voice of the disenfranchised or the minority, the actual I guess majority really, but they're
we're
silenced.
In some of these states though, like example, Georgia. I believe that Georgia has been blue for a long time.
Oh, yeah. Texas is blue, Florida is blue. Like the thing is, at the end of the day, these states are blue.
Right.
However, thanks to gerrymandering and redistricting and suppressing certain votes via other
but don't you think it's a little bit though that people really weren't aware of why it's so important to participate in democracy? And what I mean by that is, like in Georgia, for example, Stacey Abrams was really able to use some of the Republican strategy, and Rachel talked about it last week.
Right.
Use some of the Republican strategy that they've used for years to do this. Actually, you know what? Joe Manchin's speaking on the floor. Let's go see.
Let's see what this
Let's go see if we can see if we can listen to him for a minute.
I've been in the House of Delegates. I've been in the state Senate for 10 years. I've been Secretary of State. I've been governor for 2 terms.
Right.
Now I've been here in the Senate for going on 11 years. When I served in the legislature, I could put a bill on the floor, and or I could put a bill in committee, and it would go through committee. It would go to the floor if it came out. I could get amendments on it. Sometimes it passed, sometimes it didn't. But at the end of the day, we had a place we called junior rules. It was behind the Senate chamber.
See, this is his thing. He's going to talk about rules and rules and rules. As if
we had our debate,
having the rules to destroy democracy is a good thing. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Well, not only that, but also the fact he's like, listen, you can only do it under these specific constraints. Like they're saying, like you can only play the game, you can only play ball if you follow these very specific rules. And if you try to do it outside of these rules, even though these rules have been broken in other games that we've played.
Right. Other parts of democracies that were carved out, right?
Right. You made exceptions. You made an exception to the rule. And now you're saying no one can have the exception to the rule when it is actually bolstering democracy by amplifying everyone's voice.
Well, right. And the other thing that he's trying to do is divert from the actual issue at hand here, which is because we see the Republicans with the census try to really gerrymander districts to where they could win no matter what, right? Like that was their goal in some of these states, Texas and some others, to get rid of districts in some states and gain seats in other states, or really gerrymander it. Well, it didn't end up being gerrymandered as they thought, right? So they didn't get it as gerrymandered as they wanted it to be gerrymandered. So that's where all these other fucking laws are coming at in these states to try to get rid of ballot boxes, to try to reduce the days you vote, to try to reduce the polling places. I mean, they really are trying to make sure that people aren't voting. And more in particular, they're trying to make sure that people in what you would consider blue areas in these red states,
right,
aren't voting. Like they get the game. They get the fucking game. The game is that if we can get less people who vote democratically to vote, then we'll win. And Democrats aren't saying that. Democrats are not saying let's vote for voting rights. That way Republicans can't vote.
Yeah.
That's not what they're saying. They're saying let's
everyone.
That's right. Everyone, really, realistically, Democrats are pushing for even people who aren't American citizens to vote inside their municipalities, which I don't know that I'm against that. Really, if you think about it, if you use a little bit of common sense and you use a bit of logic, Why wouldn't someone who is a citizen of a city, in New York City, Atlanta, Los Angeles, whatever city it may be,
Right.
and municipality it may be, why shouldn't that person who lives there, resides there, pays property tax there, works there, has an actual legal status here? Why the fuck shouldn't they get to vote for what their town is voting on, whether it be school board or the county commission or the mayor, for fuck's sake? What in the fuck is wrong with these people that they hate democracy?
Right. Or God forbid, that you are able to have a say in the area in which you live, right? Like,
Right.
why should it only be these other people and not the people who are actually experiencing that situation, those conditions, those policies in their life,
Well, I mean, the reason why is they're terrified of democracy.
Right, exactly.
And I know why they're terrified of democracy, because they can't, not only do they not have any really good ideas, they don't have policies that the majority of Americans want. They know it. It's not a fucking secret. They know that their policies suck and the majority of Americans don't want them. So instead of really having a what they would call a come to Jesus moment,
right,
and do a party evaluation and say, you know what, maybe
never
what
going to
we should
happen.
do- Right,
Never going to happen.
Right. Well, they tried this back, in 2012 when Mitt Romney lost. They tried to well, they kind of did it in 2008, not as much. It was more, well, we'll just scare them with the black dude, and then
Right.
and we'll win in 2012. And they lost in 2012. Now, Obama did win by a smaller margin in 12 than he did 8.
Right.
But the point is that they really decided to do a reevaluation. The RNC actually did a fucking report. Do you remember that? Reince Priebus did a fucking report. They commissioned a report of what to do to attract more people to their party, and the consensus was to change your policies. I remember Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham did a tour around the fucking media and was like, "Yeah, this RNC report, we really need to change our stance on immigration and possibly look at gay marriage and a few other issues that we need to move the stake on, so that way we can have more constituents." He even talked about the Hispanic population in this country being very conservative. Now, which I actually believe that a lot of the Hispanic population in this country probably is very conservative. Most of the time, they are very religious. They have a high faith in God, and there are a lot of issues that line up with Republicans, but they just can't stop demonizing that population. And Lindsey Graham did a tour after that 2012 reevaluation of their party. He went on TV and said as much, but here now he's I'm sure he's compromised by some kind of goods that Trump's got on him that he gave him when he golfs. So now, Lindsey Graham puts his Cheeto dust knee pads on. But we just have a situation in this country where all people, Democrats, independents, moderates, never Trumpers, whatever the fuck, that big tent of Democratic Party just want people to vote, and let's just have fucking democracy. I'm going to go back and see what Joe Manchin's saying here, and we'll listen in for just a few minutes more.
Cable news airways, pages of newspapers across the country, and to argue that repealing the filibuster is actually restoring the Senate to the vision of the founding fathers.
Yeah, it is.
Intended
it
for
is
this
actually
deliberate body.
Do you know how much shit could be changed with the simple majority?
It's just not
right.
The
actual debate
Senate has never.
Well, but that's I think the point that we're trying to make is that
right.
We don't actually have a simple if you actually had a reflection of what the American people look like as far as their ideology, right? 60, 70%, we would have 60 fucking votes in the Senate.
Right.
We would have 60 fucking votes. It would not be this. We would not be having this fight if our system of voting made sure that the representation on the Senate floor was the representation of what it looks like out in the country, because that's the fucking point of a republic. That's the whole point of a constitutional democratic republic. That democracy setup is supposed to reflect, and it doesn't. That's why we have these fights, and that's why I say we're not divided. People are just fucking so frustrated with the ease of saying, why can't you just say that everyone should have the right to vote? and we shouldn't be restricting ballot boxes or how long it takes you to fucking vote. And this idea the filibuster is somehow from our founding, it's all bullshit. The filibuster has always been used as a Jim Crow, and Joe Biden said it the other day, this is all Jim Crow 2.0, because the filibuster, anytime it's ever been actually used in its original form to stop legislation, it was always civil rights, just like we're dealing with right here today, watching Joe Manchin do. Let me play a little bit more from him.
Not have that power to do that in this Senate. Now my colleagues propose to sidestep this process. They would use the nuclear option to override a rule that we have used ourselves, but now seem to find unacceptable. Unacceptable now. We're going to break the rules to change the rules. We'll make up new rules as we go along.
That's how the Constitution works. That's how our government works. Like literally.
No
like,
rule of the Senate.
Like
can
we
withstand.
change it. You amend it. It was meant to evolve. Like the thing that everyone on the Republican side, or even people like Manchin, are like, oh, this document that was made with the founding fathers have established itself to be concrete. Yes, resolute and all that shit. But at the same time, you're making the argument that this thing that you built a country on, when way back in 1776, that you established that this was the only living document and it was never going to change. Like, in no way is it going to mimic humanity, and that you evolve, you learn, you adapt to your surroundings, and that things say, hey, probably can't do that, probably shouldn't do that. Hey, this would be a better way to do it. And then on the other side, they're just like, nah, it's meant to seem the same way all the time.
Right. Well, even Caitlin here is saying, like, the founding fathers, like, women didn't have the right to vote. Now they do. Right. Like, we did at one time have this thing called, slavery in this country. We don't anymore. Why in the fuck don't they understand why it is so important for a democratic constitutional republic to have the voice of the people? And that is all the Democrats are asking for. They're not asking to make sure that only Democrats vote. Like, they're not even asking in this bill or a bill like it to have non-citizens vote. Like, the Republicans are freaking out in New York because the RNC.
The Republicans are also the ones who said, hey, maybe we shouldn't count all of Biden's votes, so we make sure that Trump wins. And it's like, what are you doing? You can't suppress the vote of one group and say we're not going to give that, and then meanwhile say the real democratic way is to then just.
Well, but again, this is why they don't like democracy, because it's not just the politicians. It's not just the ones in power. It's not just the Mitch McConnells. It's not just the Republican governors, the Republican legislators, all these Republican senators, these 50 of them that absolutely refuse to even have a conversation about voting rights. It's their constituents, too, that want to vote for this stuff, this quote unquote conservative stuff. And I believe a lot of the quote unquote conservative have peeled away from the Republican Party. The actual conservative people have peeled away from the Republican Party, because it's obvious that Republicans are conservative, because a conservative would want to conserve the right to vote for everyone, right? Like, that's the root cause of the word, because we're granted the right to fucking vote, whether you like it or not. Whether the states want to fucking reduce the access of ballots or absentee voting or mail-in voting or early voting, regardless, we have the fucking right to vote in this country. That's what we have, and we can exercise it. Now, they make it very difficult for some people in particular areas in particular states, right? I mean, for instance, in Texas, I think Houston has like 4 million people for one goddamn drop box or some crazy ass shit.
Yeah, that was that was a big problem in the 2020 election, where you had Huntington. I'm blanking on the county, but there were millions of people, and they said, "Yeah, you guys can go to this one drop box." Which during COVID, you're like, "Listen, man, I don't feel comfortable going in and voting, right? I don't feel like packing myself into a place, because that's probably how Texas would allow their polling place." And so they say, okay, you know what? Instead of giving accessibility to everyone to vote and drop off their ballot, we'll go one ballot box, because for whatever reason, that's the fair way.
Right. The fair. Well, it really.
And side note, that's also not to, I don't know if you know about what happened here in Southern California, but they were dropping off fake ballot boxes.
Well, so that's what I was going to say is they even go to the extent to, because they always accuse the left, the Democrats, of committing
Right.
fraud.
It's
Right?
projection.
Right. Well, I mean, because they do. We seen there was, I mean, how many people, was it 4 or 5 in the villages alone?
4 that we know of right
It
now.
was a 4, right?
Yeah.
4 fucking people. Like the percentage of voter fraud in
The
this country is like,
concentration.
right, it's like 0.0000001% or some fucking.
But also
shit.
that the villages, the retirement home, the friendliest neighborhood in America, in Florida or whatever.
Right. Yeah. Right.
So far has the most amount of voter fraud in one specific area of the country.
Well,
we had
what's,
Texas and Pennsylvania and
right. Well, I mean, you take the amount of voter fraud just in that one community alone, and it, like, right now it makes up for like 87% of all voter fraud in the entire country in the 2020 election. Like, and they all voted for one candidate to defraud the vote, which was Donald Trump. It really doesn't. Well, and then I think the other one is the guy in Pennsylvania where we talked about it several times. I think he got his deceased wife and his deceased mother-in-law.
No, not deceased. It wasn't just deceased.
Yeah,
it was that he
killed her. Right?
He killed her,
right?
And then changed the vote, and then changed the mother-in-law's vote.
I mean, you know what? If you have a cult leader, you are willing to go way out of your way.
Yeah, you'll drink piss for him.
And apparently you will make sure to make your wife deceased to make sure that she's not voting.
You gotta ensure a vote for President Trump, right? At any means necessary, whatever the cost.
Right. Well, that's how it works. Our audience is staying pissed here, and I think that's
good.
Right. I think that's an important thing because I want you to understand that staying pissed. Anyone listening out there, staying pissed is important because we need to make noise. We need to pound the ground. And I'm going to keep yelling into my microphone. I don't know if you noticed, but I'm not going to stop. We're actually going to go to 2 hours every weekday, which we're excited about. We'll talk about it here in a second. Mm-hmm. But you have to go fucking vote. You have to activate. You have to engage. So you have to do the work. Now, whatever that may mean, right? Like you can do a lot of different things. Like call Mr. Joe Manchin's office here. That might be one thing you can do. Pile him up with voicemails and phone calls. Now, be very nice. Do not threaten. Do not, don't be an asshole because we can't be assholes here. The only way to win in 2022 is not be an asshole. But, you could call Manchin. You could call your senator, especially if you're in Arizona, call your senator there as well. I know Mark Kelly released a statement about Kyrsten Sinema in Arizona, the junior senator there, who's going to rerun in 2022. And we have to be engaged.
We'll see.
Right. We have to be engaged because here's the important part, I think, about 2022. And here's the optimism that I have about it. If we stay pissed and we really realize what's at stake here, which I think most Americans do, whether you register as a Democrat or you're a democratic socialist or identify yourself as a liberal or an independent, a moderate, a never Trumper, I think the most important thing is most Americans understand what is at stake at 2022, just like was at stake in 2020. Right. The good news is we don't have the orange deity on the ballot. So there isn't going to be as much enthusiasm. But what we have to do is we have to make sure we do not take our eye off the ball. We have to act like this is the last time you're going to vote. Like this is it. This is the last time. There may not be a next time.
In some way, you can consider 2022 not to be that extreme, but there are parts where you look at it and you say, for some people, this might be the last time or the last, I guess, way to access fair and democratic voting, because once this happens, then that's a possibility that Republicans, a majority gets into office and they start changing other shit up. And it makes it even more hard and difficult for people to get there. And their vote and their voice is suppressed to an even more difficult level that is unable for someone to counteract for years down the line. And at that point, I mean, even in the last 5 years with these people that have been in office, we fucking set the fucking forest fire like ablaze.
Literally,
and now we're trying to
literally
put it
in
out.
some places,
Right?
Literally, it's. I mean, it just if we can actually stay engaged, because here's the good news. Here's the good news, and again, we have to have confidence here, just like we had confidence in Georgia that we won those runoff races for the Senate, which gave us the 50 votes today. We wouldn't be even having this debate that you're looking at, where James Lankford, that fuck from Oklahoma, is going to go talk about rules and how Democrats are trying to break the rules and all this shit. That's what he's going to be saying right here. I don't need to fucking play him to know what he's saying. But here's the thing. I am very optimistic, just like they were optimistic in Georgia, and they got out the vote and they won those runoffs when they shouldn't have. They did, because those people knew what was at stake and they went and voted. We have to engage, because we have down ballot races too. We can't just say Senate and Congress, the United States House of Representatives. We have to go vote for those people in those districts to make sure pro-democracy people have the reins of government. But if you go vote and you engage and you get candidates to engage and they stay on that ballot and they are there to vote for on that ballot, whether it's governor, whether it's state legislator, all the way down to the goddamn dog catcher. I want my dog catcher to be pro-democracy at this point.
If there was anything that people should have learned from 2020 and 2021, it was the fact that insane people, QAnon, Republicans, GQP, are strategically putting themselves in positions of power on the very, very hyper-local level, all the way up to this. Because what's happening is those people, whether on a fucking PTA board or, they're on your HOA or whatever, these people are going to eventually move themselves up, if not have an influence or a voice in other people that are aligned with them running, which are going to then trickle. I mean, this is the only fucking trickle down that actually works in this sense, is that you're fucking over democracy because you're putting people high, low, from up to bottom, and like putting those people in position from a very micro level all the way up to a more macro level. And they're just going to be intertwined between all of those different states.
Well, and Caitlin makes a good point here on that comment that I just posted. She's got another one here. We have to use strategic outrage to drive wedges between these Republicans as well, because they are eating each other here. That's some other good news. Some other optimism that we have is they don't know what to believe anymore. Like, they're so fucking out of whack and they're so far off in the la land looking for JFK Jr. to come back and yelling and screaming about CRT voodoo that doesn't exist. That and the anti-mask, anti-vax. I mean, Trump's saying, no, get the vaccine. And they're like, no, fuck you. I mean, they're really eating each other here. But we can use those things strategically to draw wedges between them. And that gives us even more power at the ballot box. That is what we have to do as Democrats. We cannot be afraid to put on our boxing gloves and go fight the battle of fucking democracy. And the best weapon we have is the ballot. That is the best fucking weapon we have. And whatever we have to do, we had Rachel Bitkofer on last week, and she was talking about this, that we have to have strategic outrage. We got to put our boxing gloves on, and we have to fight this boxing match. We can't stand on the ropes and just let them beat us to death until we're knocked out. We have to fight. We have to fight. And whatever that means. Now, we don't have to use misinformation or fucking lies. We can use truth. Truth is really more powerful than lies and misinformation will ever be. It doesn't spread as far and fast. But if we do the job of messaging and we do the job of spreading the word to each other, and we know what's going to happen to our democracy, we know how it works, we know where these races are at that we can vote for, us as citizens, I'm talking to you out there, then we can win this battle. And there is a high optimism. But we have to stay in the fight. We have to stay pissed. We have to go fucking vote, because Democrats are the only ones that deliver. Because Republicans, all they want to do is destroy. Destroy.
Well, Democrats are the only ones that care. They're the only ones that, I'm just going to say it, are the only ones that actually have some sense of empathy in them to care for another human, right? To care for another person, whether they've been in that situation or not, wants their voice heard and wants the basic human rights that they should have, whether it's healthcare, voting, housing, fucking, I don't care what it is. But even on its most basic level, Democrats or the Democratic Party has empathy and care for other people.
Right. Well, I mean, that's a great point, because we kind of talk about that with Jeremy London in our interview, which when we come back from the break, we're going to start that. So stay tuned for that interview here in the second hour. We're almost at the top of the first hour here. But he talks about that a lot in the second part of the interview there after the trivia game. I don't know. It was kind of a little, unfair, but yeah.
Hey, we'll let the viewers and listeners decide.
Right. We'll let the tape show itself. of who played trivia. We play. Gabe actually plays Jeremy in 90s movie trivia, so the deck was kind of stacked against Gabe. But it's a great interview. Stick around for that. But before we go to commercial to shoot to the interview, I do want to tell everyone again that we're going to go to a 2-hour format. And I know you're excited about this. I'm excited about this. So this, I think, is going to be the last Wednesday afternoon that the Tony Michaels podcast will be airing at 3 o'clock Central, 4 o'clock Eastern. We're going to move the podcast to every single weekday at noon Eastern, 11 Central. We'll do the shit list roundup like we do right now in the first hour. And the second half of the show, we're going to do the podcast stuff where me and Gabe talk. We talk about stuff like this. We're going to bring guests on. We're going to have pop-ins. We're going to do the Bonehead of the Week on Friday. I know that's very exciting. And I think it's going to be very good. We get more viewership during that time of day. That's one of the reasons why we chose that time over this time. I think more people are available at that time. And that's why we get higher viewership. So we want as many people that can listen to listen. The great part is the other things that are going to change about this every day is we're going to be on YouTube, Gabe, every single day now, not just live, not just on Twitch and Twitter for the shit list roundup. The other thing that's going to change, that's going to be significant, is every single day they're going to get a publish. We're going to publish that podcast on the podcast directory. So Apple, Spotify, that's all going to be right there. So they're going to be able to find us every single day, content every day for 2022 to stay pissed, to go fucking vote. And because Democrats deliver, we see it today on the Senate floor. Democrats are the only ones willing to deliver. The Republicans want to destroy the right to vote. And we have to have strategic outrage to make sure that we win in 2022. So I think we need to keep that in mind. But stick around right here. We'll be right back after these messages with Jeremy London from Mallrats, Seventh Heaven, and Party of Five. Stick around.
We'll be right back. Mark 60 seconds. This is the Tony Michaels Podcast.
Fellow patriots, what would you do if there was a Trump supporter right in front of you, crying in pain because they have to live under communist tyranny? We know what you would do. You'd reach out and give that true American a hand. Now, here's your chance. For only $50 a day, you can help us help those true Americans recover from Biden's socialist reign of terror. These are those Trump supporters, and this is that moment. Send your donation via Venmo to the real president, Donald J. Trump. It's only $50 a day, recurring. And it means you'll get these Trump supporters the critical help they so desperately need to survive under this false regime. Please donate now, because those Trump supporters you just saw can't wait another moment.
Catch Tony's Twitch stream, The Shit List Roundup, at twitch.tv/The Tony Michaels. We're back to the king of brilliance. This is the Tony Michaels Podcast.
Welcome back to the show. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for sticking with us with the guest. We have a fantastic guest today. I know everyone will know this 90s heartthrob, as he's known as on the internet. This is Jeremy London, the actor, not the porn star. This is definitely Jeremy London, the actor. Jeremy, thank you for joining us here on the Tony Michaels Podcast. It is fantastic to have you.
I'm just desperate for attention, really. That's the only reason I'm here.
Is that porn star Jeremy London? Is it like someone? We were talking before we brought Jeremy on here. We were asking him, and he says there's another Jeremy London out there.
This guy. Yeah, I just found out about that guy. I guess some dude that does gay porn. I promise, Grandma, it's not me.
Well, film is film, I guess, and maybe he's trying to take your handle there, Jeremy. So, you were in Mallrats. You were on Seventh Heaven, Party of Five. You were famous for all those, and I want to address a few things from those. But the one thing I want to start off with is there's not only a Jeremy London, there's a Jason London, and I'm not a twin, but you are. And the one thing I wondered is, how do you guys get confused with, do people confuse you? How does that work when in the twin world?
Yeah, they most certainly do. They do. I mean, I guess mostly at conventions, I guess, really, whenever I do conventions and people bring dazed and confused posters in for me to sign and stuff like that. And, it just.
And you're like, yes, I will take the money. I'll sign.
Yeah, right.
It got to, I would tell people that this isn't me, this is my brother. And most of the time people they don't believe me. They really think that I'm fucking with them for some reason. And can I say that?
So they think there's only one.
Oh, you can say anything the fuck you want on here, man.
I think there's only one Jay London out there, right? Like it's not Jeremy, it's Jason, it's just one London.
Yeah, I don't think people read credits, I guess.
Well, I was gonna say, is that how your career started?
It started because I dragged him into the industry. No. But we are getting ready to do it. We've only done one feature film together. It's called Branded, which is a killer movie on I think you can find it on Amazon. But we actually just booked a movie. Just about 10 minutes ago, I booked a movie with Mickey Rourke. And
congrats!
Yeah, nice score.
Yeah, that should be interesting. Yeah, that should be interesting. So I literally just got off that phone call a few minutes ago. So it's pretty exciting.
Awesome. Well, we're breaking news here. We're breaking news here on the
Michael's it's called podcast. The Hunt Club. Yes,
the Hunt Club. Yes. What's it about? What's it about?
Club. I haven't read it yet, honestly.
Oh, fantastic!
I just got the offer, and they're sending me the script. But if it's got Mickey's pretty picky, so my brother's done a movie with him before, good. And so my friend David Lipper's directing it, and so they're all really they're quality folks, and so I expect it to be a good project, and I'm excited about it.
That's awesome.
And we can shoot here in Mississippi, where I'm. Yeah.
Oh, so you're shooting it there? You're shooting it there.
Yeah, which is great. It's about 2 hours away from my house, which is fantastic. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's
awesome.
great. That's
even
great.
better.
So tell us about that because your career, you started out as, like I said, the teen heartthrob. You were in Mallrats, Dazed and your brother's in Dazed. Geez, see, I'm even getting you. Seventh Heaven, and then Party of Five. But your career
Party of Five was way before Seventh Heaven.
Now you guys you do a lot of acting, directing, writing. Tell us about that.
I do. I mean, I'm almost 50 years old. I've been doing this for 32 years. I've been in this. I mean, my brother and I dragged him into audition for a movie called The Man in the Moon, which was Reese Witherspoon's first movie when she was 13 years old. And it's a beautiful movie. The guy that directed Kill a Mockingbird directed it. So our first intro into the business was at a pretty high level. And then I was lucky enough to land the lead on a television series with Sam Waterston called I'll Fly Away in the early 90s. And Sam had been in The Man in the Moon, played Reese's father, and went to bat for me. And I was able to get the audition and got the role on I'll Fly Away, which we went on to win the Emmy for Best Drama. So it was a really, really good show, really good show. And so I got my feet wet early on in the industry as soon as I started sort of pursuing it, and started at a relatively high level, which was really a blessing and a curse, I think. But it's just one of those things that here, 32 years later, I'm surprised, I guess, that I'm still that any of that stuff's still relative. But I mean, we did Mallrats more than 25 years ago now.
Right. Well, I was doing
now than it ever was.
Right. When I was doing some, because I was trying to remember back on Mallrats, I'm like, and I forgot, I was like, Stan Lee is in that fucking movie. I'm like, he's in there. And I was trying to remember the scene because there's the famous part where Jason Lee's character is on like the bridge, right? The second level bridge. Yeah. And they're talking about, I don't know, the crotches of the comic book characters. Yeah. Right. And, and basically Stan's character, it's him, it's a cameo. He's trying to get across the love life thing. And then I'm like, I know in the movie, Jeremy's character talks to him, and it didn't fail at the very end. There's the dismount of the Stan Lee cameo where he comes behind, and then your character, you guys like, yeah, did you get him? He's like, yeah, right. He's like, he's like, hey, he's obsessed with superhero crotches or whatever.
Yeah. That was fun, man. I'll tell you, I very much was T.S. Quint. I didn't know who Stan Lee was when they first started talking about Stan. Once they said he created Spider-Man, I was like, oh, okay, I know that, but I was never really a comic book guy, or anything like that. And so for me, the whole thing was very genuine. And but meeting him, once I met him, he was so wonderful. And he spoke so highly of being he always claimed that was his favorite cameo he ever made in a project. And then in his last cameo, he's holding a Mallrats script, in the Marvel movie he did. So it was one of those things that now looking back was monumental, in scope, but at the time.
So was it like then in 1995? Of course, he hadn't done the Spider-Man movies, and he hadn't elevated to this stratosphere of like folkloredom, I guess you'd say.
Right.
But what was it?
Well, they always just gave him
Stan
like
Lee
little.
was,
I think he finally, he had lines. He got to act. He got to do things. One of the things that was kind of frustrating, I think, not only to him but even to myself, whenever I would see him in the future cameos, is that they literally were just cameos. They were, oh, that's Stan in the background there. That's him holding the broom, whatever. They never took advantage of the opportunity to let him be something other than just
even after the
Easter egg.
performance that he gave. Even after the performance that he gave in Mallrats, because when I went back and watched the clip, he's fantastic in it. Like his timing's great.
He nailed it.
His timing's great. How many days was he on set with you guys?
I think just the one day.
Just the one day.
It might have been 2, but I'm pretty sure it was just the one day.
But also, you guys you yourself are part of the Marvel universe now.
I guess so now.
Yeah, he's reading the script, so it's all canon
proxy,
now.
Yeah, by proxy.
So, breaking news: Jeremy London is part of the Marvel universe, and he's a Marvel superhero now through the Mallrats. It has to be some sort of, timeline, separate. What do we call it now? Now that they did the Spider-Man, the multiverse.
When the multiverse,
multiverse.
Yeah. Right. In another universe, I'm a huge Marvel star.
So the other projects that I wanted to touch on, because I found them very, very curious in your list of projects. One of them, two of them actually. You've done a couple of reality TV shows. And I feel like that we live in reality TV, culture now. Like we're in this weird timeline where I always say we're at the intersection of WrestleMania and real life. Like, we've made our politics and important shit like part of the show. And but you were actually and I think it's the reality TV show president. So I wanted to talk to you about a couple of reality shows that you were on. One specifically that I found a nugget. It was like a wife swapping celebrity thing.
Swap with,
where you got to meet Siegel, which is the wife of
Jackie Siegel, is one of my best
timeshare.
friends.
Is she really? So you guys still talk?
She's one of my dearest. Oh yeah, she's one of my. Became one of my dearest friends. They're wonderful people. The show is slightly misleading. They're not remotely as shallow as they portrayed them to be, but Jackie also owns that personality, and she knows that that's what people kind of want her to be, and so she plays the hell out of it like Lucille Ball. I mean, she's not that vacuous of a person or shallow. As a matter of fact, she's one of the most generous humans I've ever met in my entire life, and she's a remarkable mother. David is a hardworking man, but just a lovely human. But all of their kids, we became very, very close to all of their kids, and have spent a lot of time in that big mansion down in Florida. We've spent
it is huge. It is huge, by the way.
It's and they're still building since I've known them. They're still building the biggest house in America. It's
Right.
Oh wow.
It's mind blowing.
I guess my question about the house, since you've been to the house, have you been in the stripper sex dildo room that they have there? Because on the show they really show this room like
That's the other Jeremy
It's
London.
you go into her
Oh.
closet. No, yeah, that's the other Jeremy London. No, you go in. It's amazing. You go into her closet, and in the back of her closet is a private door, is a door behind all of this. It's secret, and then you go into this room, and it's got zebra striped carpeting on the and it's got a stripper pole and all this stuff. But we would just go in there and play video games. We didn't. I mean, all the rest of it was kind of just like
Oh, that's hilarious. That's hilarious. No, that's the one thing they kind of feature on the show because it's the most salacious thing in the house probably. But you are right. She totally owns her
Jackie in a
personality.
nutshell. She
Right,
does.
right.
She knows that it's going to be salacious and fun, and that's who she is too. I mean, but she's before everything else, she's just a smart woman, and she's a very, very good mama. She's a wonderful mother.
That's cool. They didn't really portray her that way on the show, like you said, but
she didn't portray herself
from someone
that
who
way.
knows her. Well, right.
Yeah.
Now during the show, because another thing I want to ask is about you living in Mississippi, because I believe at the time during the show, this show has been aired for several years, but you lived on your farm there.
Now in Oklahoma.
Right, he was a baby. Right. Yeah. You were in Oklahoma at the time.
We were.
You were in Oklahoma at the time. Oh, so now you're in Mississippi, but you're still living on a farm because in the show, you actually go shovel some cow shit, and because I'm familiar, I grew up on a farm in Missouri.
I grew up on a cattle ranch in Oklahoma, and but I don't live on a ranch now in Mississippi. I just live in we have a gardening business, a big garden in my backyard. But we don't have animals yet. That's our goal, though, my lady and I. That's our goal. But
I got you. But you are playing in the dirt, though. It sounds like.
All the time.
You got to play in the dirt.
We have a business called London's Most Wanted. You can find our website or our site on Etsy. It's called London's Most Wanted. I created a pepper jelly business, and I make pepper jelly and baked goods. I became basically a grandmother, even though I am a new grandfather.
Awesome.
And I'm a step grandpa. Can you guys believe that?
Grandpa Jeremy London with his jellies and jams. This is fantastic.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a really good granny one day, I suppose. I just need to get into some knitting, and it's far from the crazy party life from California back in the day. I mean, I'm 50, man.
So you're making jams and jellies. You're knitting. You're knitting there in Mississippi.
Not knitting yet.
Not knitting yet. Okay. Well, we'll leave that for future projects on the
bucket
Etsy
list.
store. But you're right. You're also booking movie deals. This is very interesting that the Jeremy London and not the porn star, obviously, but that the progression of your career. Now, Jeremy, we like to play trivia here on the Tony Michaels podcast. So I have prepared, because it's my turn to be the host of the trivia. So I have prepared the trivia, and I think you're gonna like the theme of today's trivia. I kind of sacked it for you. It's 90s movie trivia. So
okay, this will be interesting.
Yes. So let's start. We're gonna have 5 questions, possibly a bonus question if we need a tiebreaker. Each question is worth 1 point. I will state the question with the multiple choice answers. You will ring in with your buzzer or your thumbs up. And if you get it wrong, the other person will have a chance for the point. The person with the most points wins, and they win nothing. But we like to play trivia here on the Tony Michaels podcast. Are you ready?
Ready.
All right. Question number 1. Who did Steven Spielberg originally want for the role of Dr. Alan Grant in Jurassic Park? Is it A, Kevin Costner? Is it B, Harrison Ford, or is it C, Tom Hanks?
I'm going to say Tom Hanks.
You are incorrect, Gabe. The question throws to you.
I'm going to say B, Harrison Ford.
That is correct. That is correct.
It makes sense. I mean, it makes sense.
Right, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Indiana Jones, I figure, right?
I know. Well, I just figured that because he did Indiana Jones, that he wouldn't want to do that again with, but also, it's sort of, they have that established relationship, so it makes sense.
When I first saw the question, before I knew the answer, my guess was Kevin Costner, but Harrison Ford or Tom Hanks makes sense in that role. But I thought actually Kevin would have been my guess, but I was wrong on it as well. So all right, question number 2: which of these facts is true about The Nightmare Before Christmas? Is it A, Tim Burton didn't direct it? Is it B, Disney delayed the release because of Hocus Pocus? Or is it C, Danny Elfman does the speaking voice for Jack?
I know this answer. He did not direct this movie.
Tim Burton, you are correct. Tim Burton did not direct.
He didn't direct this movie.
No,
and
he did not.
And Danny Elfman just sang the songs. He didn't actually do the voice.
Right. So here's a fact of this: the movie is based on a story and characters that Tim created, but the film is directed by Henry Slick. Is that how you say it? Tim did produce the film, though. That's why his name is on it, because he wrote. It's based on the characters, and he did produce.
And
it.
he was
so
working
he had a
for
lot
Disney. Tim was working for Disney whenever he created it, and Disney really didn't get it. They didn't understand it, and so he actually
right because it is even to this day. Now my daughter loves that movie because she loves Halloween.
My son
and Christmas.
absolutely loves it.
Right, and it's a great mix of Halloween and Christmas, and it's
brilliant
that they have that movie because it pairs the two. Because now, like when you go in to buy a Halloween costume, the Christmas trees are already fucking up in the store. So it's
I actually just got Santa Claus just got my son, a framed lithograph with all the characters.
Very cool.
Put on his wall.
From The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, my daughter's highly into that movie. We watched that movie over and over again. Of course, she loves the Disney Plus act, and right now the musical Encanto, is that how you say it?
I haven't seen that yet. I haven't seen that.
Oh my gosh! If you let your son watch it, you will watch it 1,000,000 times because the music in it is just fucking phenomenal, and you can't get it out of your head. You can't get it out of your head. So, all right, question number 3. We are in a tie so far. Which of these facts is true about the movie Scream? Is it A, it was originally called Scary Movie? Is it B, they originally wanted Heather Locklear to play Gail Weathers? Or is it D, Denise Richards was forced to drop out of the role of Casey Becker after Drew Barrymore wanted the role instead of her role of Sydney?
It's called Scary Movie because I read the script and actually auditioned for it.
Oh! Boom!
Wow!
Boom.
Look at that inside scoop. Which roles did you audition for?
I don't even remember, man. I think it was Skeet's role. I think wasn't Skeet? Was Skeet in that? Skeet was in it, right?
Well, there. How many were there? There was like
I don't remember. I don't.
It's been
so long. God, it's been so long. Skeet Ulrich was in the first one, right?
Yeah. He played the boyfriend.
Yeah. It was his. It was the role that he got. Yeah.
I got you.
All right. So in the multiverse,
but I do remember
it.
I remember it called Scary Movie. I do.
Wow.
So that's what the script. Well, isn't the parody? Because I was thinking about this, and I had to go look at it. The parody's called Scary Movie now, right?
Yeah.
Like they parodied
it. That's where they got
the
scary. That's probably where they got that from. Yeah. It was
they're like, we'll just call what it is. It's a scary movie. Yeah.
But aren't they doing a new Scream? Aren't they doing a new?
Yeah. So
they did it already.
Yeah. It came out this weekend.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, perfect.
So
perfect timing.
They did 4.
Okay.
And then, and I don't quote me on this part, but I believe the rights to the property expired or something along those lines were repurchased. And then this is a reimagining of, because they were like, well, we can't just call it Scream 5. Right. So they're talking about this being the redevelopment of like taking the existing characters, coming in to basically push the new generation off into the other spin-offs.
And then basically capitalize on
all
the new streams.
Right. Well, I have a relationship with Nev Campbell, clearly from Party of 5, and with David Arquette, who's one of my oldest friends from Hollywood, and so I'm just thrilled to see them getting back at it, and
Yeah.
staying busy.
Yeah, my wife was really excited when she seen that all because we watched the preview and we seen that all the original characters were going to work their way back in because that's like 1990s teenage. We're like, oh my god.
Well, hopefully Jamie
Scream was
Kennedy,
the
who's my
movie.
boy, hopefully Jamie makes his way back in there too because I love Jamie. I've done a couple films.
It would be great if there was like some unreleased VHS tape that has now found its way onto YouTube, and he's like, "This is how you just avoid getting killed." Like, comes back that way.
All right, so
everything's
Jeremy
possible.
is.
I feel like I'm sort of it's like insider trading. I kind of have a little bit of an advantage.
I tried to stack the deck. Last week on the podcast, Gabe was on. We have a little part of the show we call Bonehead of the Week. So I kind of thought maybe I give him a dig here, really stack the deck this year because he kind of had some technical difficulties. And
it wasn't my fault. It was the camera, the mic. It was
we're still blaming him here on the podcast. So we're still maybe sending the.
Aiming at your crotch, I'm telling you.
Well, it happens when you're a producer of the show. Question number 4: which actor was originally cast as Juliet opposite Leonardo DiCaprio in Romeo plus Juliet? Was it Alicia Silverstone? Was it Kate Winslet? Or was it Natalie Portman?
Alicia Silverstone.
That is incorrect. Jeremy,
it's your Portman. Natalie.
Correct.
Oh.
Jeremy takes that question as well. Here's a little
fact. Gabe.
So Natalie was forced to drop out of the movie after executives at Fox saw the rehearsals and thought she looked way too young to be playing Leonardo DiCaprio's love interest in the movie. So it wasn't. It wasn't
supposed to. She could have only been his girlfriend now.
Right. Exactly. Right.
Because in the movie, what are they? 14, 15, something like that.
Yeah, they have to. Well, I mean, they have to be teenagers.
The story. I believe they were 15 and 15,
right.
16.
Which is also crazy to be like, oh, you got. I mean, I guess they're rival gang families, but you're just like having shootouts with 15-year-olds, which again, I guess is not so crazy knowing gangs.
Yeah, I don't think Shakespeare would have approved, but
yeah,
you never know.
Well, I like the movie. I kind of stack these questions for my own interest.
Mm-hmm.
Because
I'm
actually a fanboy.
Phenomenal in it. Yeah. Harold Perrineau is brilliant in it.
There's a lot of good performances in that movie. It's incredible.
Yes.
It is a great movie.
Yes.
Just like
it's
looking
not an
at
easy
it.
one to pull off.
Oh, hell no.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and even at the time, like you wouldn't think that a piece like that would be very popular. But the way they did it really resonated and it worked really well in that space.
Oh, Leguizamo.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Well, John
Leguizamo
is like great in everything. What is he not great in? Like,
he's a bit of a chameleon for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's brilliant.
Well, maybe you'll have to help us get some more really good guests on the show, Jeremy. I'll keep you in my Rolodex, and I can keep tabbing you. Maybe you could put some good words in for us, and we can play more trivia with these folks. Which of these facts? The next question, number 5. Which of these facts is true about The Lion King? I wanted to get some animated films in this mix here. I did the Nightmare Before Christmas, which is time stop, but we got it animated. Is it A, Can You Feel the Love Tonight was almost cut from the film, the song, Can You Feel the Love Tonight? B, the wildebeest stampede scene took Disney CGI animators 13 months to complete? Or is it C, the movie was a prestige film and because of it was animated by Disney's animators A-Team? Is it A, B, or C?
I'm going to say the wildebeest scene, and that is seriously just a guess.
It is. That is not correct, Gabe. It's your point. Even though you're not going to win, and you can't win.
Well, it's I got a fighting chance.
Well,
you have 50-50 chance here of not getting smoked, Gabe.
A is what again?
A is the song "Can You Feel the Love Tonight."
A.
It is A. It is A.
Boom.
That is correct.
I do have a fun fact. I just learned the other day. Speaking of music, though, this is a complete guess that I made on A. Is the composer Hans Zimmer, right? So I just learned the other day the reason that he composed the film. He almost passed on it entirely, but at the time he had a small a son, and basically realized the connection between the movie of losing, Simba losing his father, and then also not having a connection with his father, I believe it was, and then having this opportunity to make a film that he could then, take his son to the premiere and all this stuff, and having an established relationship, which was like, I was like, oh, one, I totally forgot that Hans Zimmer even scored the film, and then two was just the motivation behind it, which I was like, yeah, learn something new every day.
Being a parent will change you. It
Yeah.
definitely,
Absolutely.
most certainly will.
It changes your outlook on everything, not
It
just
made me grow up. Yeah, I mean, it's the best thing that ever happened to me. And now,
awesome.
Now I have
And how old's your son? You said your son's how old?
Well, I have 4 sons, including my stepsons.
4.
2018,
Gotcha.
2018, 14, and 7. My biological sons are Wyatt and Lyric, and they're 7 and 14 respectively. And then my stepson Ethan, who's 18, and my stepson Noah, who's 20, who just had a child, and so now I'm a step grandpa.
That's fantastic.
And so yeah, I mean, so from 20 to 7.
And the whole grandpa thing is going to teach you a whole new thing. I hear that changes, not just being a parent, but then on to being the grandparent change, because you can send them home and that sort of shit. They say that.
Yeah. Well, my lady and I,
hats and gloves.
Yes. When I get into knitting, I can start making clothes for it.
Yeah, you're like, I got you a gift. What'd you get me? Oh, I got you. I made you a sweater.
Well, my lady and I, we really have been. We've had him for the last 3.5 weeks here because his dad's out of town working and his mom has been sick. So we all went through COVID together. The baby gave us COVID, which was crazy. But yeah, so we spent a lot of time with him. He actually is just in the other room.
Cool.
So if you hear any babies crying,
that's what it is. Well, that's great. Well, thanks for playing trivia. You kicked Gabe's ass. I knew you would with the 90s movie trivia. So
I would have been ashamed otherwise.
Thanks for playing the game. All right, but the audience always likes the trivia, so
love it.
It's fun. It's a quick break because you mentioned COVID and having COVID. A couple of my family members who are vaccinated had COVID. I live in a red state. It's kind of running rampant in some of the red states and otherwise too, which leads me to why we wanted to have you on the show, because I know you are famous for being in these shows and movies and the things that you've done, but you also do not have any fear about speaking about politics, and that's one reason why I wanted to bring you on.
Yes.
Right. So you are a blue dot in a red state, right? Is that fair to say?
Very much so. Yes.
So tell us about your experience, because you've lived in several red states, and I guess being a blue dot in those red states, tell us about that experience that you've had. Especially the change that has come over the last 4 or 5 years.
I have to bite my tongue a lot. I don't like biting my tongue. But let's just say the ladies' office work party was awkward, and I wound up leaving. I just overall. I know that it could be worse than what I have to deal with here in Mississippi, because when I just went to Oklahoma, where my family lives, and they're everywhere, I'm seeing F Biden flags and stuff like that. Right. And it just makes me sick to my stomach, because there's no reason to even have that type of negative attitude towards Joe Biden, because A, he hasn't had time to screw up that much, but B, he's actually trying to do things that actually help the country and help bring the country together. And this idiot Trump did nothing but divide our nation in a way that I've never in my almost 50 years have ever witnessed. And I never understood the Civil War before until now. It makes me actually angry that people are dying because of misinformation. I'm not one of those people that finds joy in these right-wing, radio hosts and stuff like that are dying from COVID for their misinformation. I actually find it to be sad, and it doesn't have to be this way. I've never understood the idea of calling yourself a patriot, but then not doing what it would take to actually support your fellow man, your fellow American, and all of us just be in this together. I mean, we're sort of fighting a common enemy, which is this virus and all of this stuff. And I don't understand the politicization of it. I don't understand people knocking Anthony Fauci, who's just trying to help people. Right. It's all basically has taken this mask off of the ugliest face of our nation, and it's embarrassing. It's sad. We're a laughing stock to the rest of the world. We've never been a laughing stock to the rest of the world. We've always been the top of the mountain, and now we are absolutely a laughing stock. I have a second home and family in Australia, and the stuff that they say about us there it's absolutely embarrassing. Our leadership has become all about politics and politicians beating other politicians, and it has nothing to do with helping out the constituents. It has nothing to do with helping people. Even with a mansion and cinema doing the shit that they're doing to throw a wrench into these bills that are actually good, positive things for our nation, just to do it. Right. I don't understand it, and it's infuriating. It's absolutely infuriating. I've never cared as much about politics in my life as I do now, because I saw it coming as soon as I realized that there was a chance that Donald Trump could actually be our president. I was one of the people that actually in the beginning was like, oh, well, he'll never. It's funny that he's running, but he'll never be the president. We're not that shallow. Our nation isn't that broken.
Boy, didn't we learn.
Good God. And then, all it did was it literally, people say that Donald Trump created all that. No, it didn't. It was clearly, obviously here. All he did was make it okay to be able to show that side of your personality.
Well, he let the boogeyman out of the closet is what he did.
Exactly. The boogeyman was there. The boogeyman was just waiting to pounce. Yeah. And unfortunately, just the hatefulness and the privileged bullshit, all of this denying our horrible past and trying to this revisionist history aspect of trying to say things that didn't happen that happened, that are dark marks on our nation, to say that we can't teach them to our children. We're doomed to repeat every bit of it.
Well,
and it's already happening.
That's a really good point about truth and teaching people history, because you come from Oklahoma, and you've had family in Oklahoma for a long time, it sounds like. And I live
grew up
in Missouri,
Oklahoma and Texas.
Right, which I'm not far away from Oklahoma, being in Missouri.
Yeah.
And it was just a few years ago that I learned about the Tulsa Massacre. Did not know about it. And I was talking to a friend.
I grew up in Oklahoma.
Right. And I was talking to a friend of mine who's a teacher, and he's a white guy just like me and you, right? And he's like, why didn't we know about this? I'm like, because we're white. Because we're white.
Yep.
Black folks know about the Tulsa Massacre. They know about it because it's important to them. It's important to their struggle. And we don't know because we weren't taught, because it hurt the privilege or whatever we want to call it in this country. And why we can't just get to the truth and know these things is kind of ridiculous. And I think it's why so many people are frustrated, because I believe the one thing that Donald Trump also uncovered, other than the boogeyman, is that minority ideology in this country, because we have a majority ideology, and I believe that most people, whether they're considered themselves Democrats or democratic socialists or moderates or independent, whatever, anti-Trumpers, whatever they want to call themselves, I believe a lot of people, 60, 65, maybe 70% of the country are kind of on the same page. They'll argue over the little here's and there's, but they're pretty much on the same page. But we uncovered that there is a minority ideology, and their goal is to keep control and not let people have democracy, right? To make
sure that's the only way they're going to keep control.
Well, and it's
and they
it's
know
clear.
they
'Cause-
know it.
right? Well, we're recording this on Martin Luther King Day. We're going to air it in a few days,
Yes.
but we're recording it on a day where a man who marched for the right of people to vote, and I think people get it confused. He was marching for
Peacefully.
people to vote,
Yeah.
right? Not just black people, but all people to vote. He was wanting all, and I being pro democracy, I want the Trump supporters to vote. I want the Republicans to vote. I want the crazies to be able to vote. I don't think that is going to necessarily make us worse. It'll make us better. It makes us better when we know the true outcome of an election. And if our democracy is representative of that vote, I think we're better off for it.
Well, I just want to know what these people actually think Trump did for our country that was positive, because he never did anything. The strangest thing to me is the people that say he's the best president that we ever had, when he literally accomplished nothing. The man's worried about crowd sizes and bad-mouthing people and acting like a child. He is embarrassing. The whole grab your pussy thing was nothing compared to actual, like, the disgusting human that he actually is. And so the people that put him on a pedestal, it says way more about them than it does him. He kind of is just who he is. They are horrible people for not seeing him for who he is, but also allowing it. Because if Joe Biden was to do even one of the things, or Obama was to do even one of these egregious things that Donald Trump has done, they would be crucified for it. And so the most bizarre thing to me is taking something like our nation's health and the fact that almost 900,000 people have died, and either denying that it's real or now trying to blame Joe Biden because more people have died on his watch, even though it's because these idiots won't get vaccinated, and they're just spreading misinformation. They're drinking piss and eating horse worm. I mean, there are reasons why most of the people dying now are Republicans. It's really kind of, they're sort of eating their own. I welcome that.
Literally,
like, yeah. Let them do that. Let them do that. You know, but
well,
Gabe
did a video on the piss eating thing, and he actually took it a step further, because we believe, because we do a lot of comedy here on the show, and we believe that the parody and satire is dead. Like you were and still are in the movie business and did comedies as well as drama, but you did a lot of comedy, and it's so frustrating that in the world, the timeline that we're in right now, which is a crazy fucked up timeline, that we have to go to like level 30 to make fun of these people. Because Gabe did a funny video the other day about how these people aren't going to go just drink piss. They're going to start eating their own shit, which is like the next step, but all in the same breath.
It is.
Today it's trending on Twitter that some pastor in Texas spits loogies into his hands and spreads the loogie on someone's face.
That.
Like, what in the hell? What? How do you people even get to this level? Like, Gabe does a video about how they're going to eat. I mean,
seriously, let them take themselves out, because at this point, the only way that the only true herd immunity we're going to get to is the stupidity herd. And so we have to get to a place where the smart people outweigh the stupid people. And unfortunately, right now, it feels like the stupid people outweigh the smart people, but they're killing themselves off. So just let them. Just like the other day on Twitter, it's like, let them drink piss. Let them do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Like the herd immunity, it really is like, it's the herd of flock of sheep is what it is.
It is, and they'll be the first ones to call us sheep, which is the funny.
Oh, it's always projections.
It's always projection. The projected aspect of this entire ordeal has been, it's so obvious to anybody with a brain in their head, and so the reason that when you can't actually have a debate with these people, the first thing that they will do is just resort to calling you names, because they're children. They have the brains of sheep, like 2-year-old sheep. But I almost feel like, the other day I said something like, why are people so surprised that this guy's living with a pig heart because Trump's been living with a pig brain for almost 8 decades, and people got offended for pigs. And people like, don't you say that about pigs? They're some of the smartest animals on the planet. And I was like, oh,
it's really bad when we're in that situation, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
There's
it's
yeah,
embarrassing.
it is. I mean, it is an insanely bizarre, fucked up shit show of a timeline that we're in, where it's like, okay, because it does go with that, where some people are like, oh, maybe we are living in a simulation. Like maybe this is the Matrix. This is like so insane. Where each time
we're glitching.
Like,
we're
right,
glitching.
No, there's like a glitch, you know.
And all you have to do is
somebody
listen
did
to
something.
any one of Trump's speeches, and it's the same thing over and over. Like, who is going to these Trump rallies thinking that they're going to get something new out of it? All you have to do
they might get a new variant of COVID, but
that's literally the only thing. But then they're going to say that they've it wasn't COVID, it was anthrax or some dumb shit, instead of actually like owning it. And I mean, just yesterday, this other idiot woman who was going into public and yelling at people who were wearing masks and telling them they were stupid and telling them they were stupid. She died yesterday from COVID.
I mean, Tony and I talked about this earlier today. Yeah, Tony and I talked about this earlier today, which is like the people who are so triggered and so upset at people wearing masks, right? They themselves go out of their way to find these people who were not in any way, shape, or form in any sort of proximity, relation to them, but they go out to somewhere else and then bitch and moan and complain about someone else doing their own thing, wearing their mask. Don't even know who this person is.
Well, it's the same people that are against gay marriage. It's like, if you're against gay marriage, don't marry a gay person.
Right.
It has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
And
they are not in your home. They are not part of your family. Like, exactly. It doesn't. But they make it about themselves. They're like, oh, this is inflicting pain on me. It's like, you didn't even know this person existed. So what are you doing?
And they're saying that it mars the sanctity of marriage. Like, give me a freaking break. Who do you know that's still married that hasn't been through at least one divorce? Not very many people. It happens, but it's not that often. Marriage isn't that sanctified anymore. I mean, Jesus, I mean,
my advice is to not do it. I don't know why gay people want to get married, because
it almost always ends in divorce. Why do you want to do it?
Right. Just stay together and love each other. You don't have to be married.
Should have the right to do it. It's a piece of paper, man. It's a piece of paper. It literally should not delegate anything other than, people want to own property together, and I get all of that, and so I understand all of that. I don't understand the people that make it their issue. It feels very closeted to me.
There you go. That goes back to that projection. Hey, so I want to ask you one more thing, because I know you probably get a lot of pushback. Because I get it in my comment threads, and I live in Missouri. I've never actually been to Los Angeles. I've been to California, but I've never actually been to Los Angeles. Gabe lives in Los Angeles, and I know he gets it a lot. We get this, oh, you're George Soros funded Hollywood elite. I'm like, what the fuck are you? Are you listening to what I'm saying and how I talk?
I fucking wish somebody would pay me.
Please, George Soros.
Are you?
I get some stimulus checks, but also if I was getting funded by George Soros during the pandemic, before or after, dude, I'd say whatever you want me to say. It's a sponsor.
These people they only speak on behalf of their Führer, which is Donald Trump. And so they think that because they are puppets that are only manipulated by puppet strings, that we couldn't be independent-minded people, independent thinking, and actually give a damn about society. There must be something other going on. The most annoying thing for me, and it's so hard for me to keep my mouth shut, is that my mother-in-law runs a gun club, which is they shoot skeet and all of that stuff. And so I will go out there just to get out of the house. I'll go out there and work with my stepson and go out and just help her out in any way that she needs to whatever she needs help with. And so there have been a couple of times whenever I've been talking to some of the redneck members out there, all wealthy white men, of course, and they find out that I'm from that I live in California, and their first thing is, oh, that communist state.
Right. Yep. It's
Which
just
is-
it's the
nobody
same
knows what
George.
communism means
Right.
anymore.
Socialism, communism.
Nobody even knows what-
Nobody knows. But people who criticize
Not even Marjorie
anyone,
Taylor Greene and all these idiots.
Right. Right. And they're elected officials.
right?
Yeah.
Anyone who
They don't even know.
anyone who's criticizing California, right? I heard one the other day that was California,
Oh my
China, I think. is what I
California,
saw
huh?
somewhere. Yeah, Chinafornia. That's what it might have been.
China,
Yeah.
Is that what they called it?
Yeah, yeah.
Chinafornia?
I was in literally Walmart the other day, and you know how just say I was over in the cheese aisle. There are name brands, and then there are like the great value brands, which are
Right.
the, Walmart brand, whatever. This guy told his wife, "Don't you get that great value? That's made in China." And it's horrible. I was like, first of all, you're an idiot. All it is, it's the same company. That stuff is all made by name brand companies. They just allot a certain portion of what they make to be called great value, because then Walmart can take a little bit of price off, and it helps the people that need help with pricing and stuff like that a little bit more. But it's the same companies making the same product, and they're still making a profit off of it. They're just making a slightly less profit by allowing Walmart or wherever to call it something else. But this guy literally was vehement about not allowing his wife to pick out great value cheese because that's made by China.
Oh my God. Well, you should have pointed out to him that he's lucky that there's even stuff on the shelves, because empty shelves Biden, and it's just more with
our
this
shelves are
noise and these
packed.
lies.
We don't have that issue here, and we're in a
the people that are making complaints. What I've noticed, take photos on a Sunday, right? So Sunday, like end of the week, they clear house, and people also do last minute runs. So you're going to be low on inventory. But come Monday, that shit, or Sunday night, that shit is back on the shelves and refilled. Yeah. And the same people that complain about that are also the ones who are sharing photos of shelves from another country,
from Japan.
And then saying,
I just saw that. Saw that from years ago, from a couple of years ago.
Exactly.
It's my it's all propaganda, right? And the proof and why this happens is the fact that even Rand Paul says that he gives Fauci shit because he makes money when he does, and that's the only reason. They've got Rand Paul giving a lecture to college students a couple of years back, and saying that lie to them, give the misinformation, get ahead by being a liar. Instead of
because in that speech he was talking a few years back, he was like, misinformation works. And the whole context for those who are listening is Rand Paul gave a speech to a bunch of college students and basically said how it wasn't that he cheated when he was in medical school, but he would spread misinformation with other people of his class and tell them, about what to focus on. Right. It's specifically going to be focused on the liver or the kidney. So they would not focus on anything else on the whole body, and they would only focus on this one organ. And then when they come out of the test, obviously the test is going to be now graded on a curve because a bunch of people ended up failing because they only prepared for one organ as opposed to the whole anatomy. And he's like, at the end, he goes, so what I'm saying is misinformation, it works. Which I'm like, you 100%. Fucking, oh my God.
Well, we were talking about this the other day, Gabe.
And he's still doing it.
Right. Well, we were talking about this the other day, me and Gabe. We're talking about this, Jeremy, on one of the shows. I don't know if there's a podcast or what, but we were talking about how if Donald Trump wouldn't have failed at the COVID response and he would have just listened to Dr. Anthony Fauci, no one would know who the fuck he was. No one knew who Anthony Fauci was before Donald Trump was like, yeah, you get out there and you tell him, so he had a scapegoat. Because before that, presidents actually listened to the experts. They listened to them. And then what would happen is, like with Obama, with Ebola, with swine flu, and then on the other presidents that Anthony Fauci, all of them, they have listened to his advice. They take the credit. Like the president takes the credit for what the work that Anthony Fauci does. Trump couldn't see through that through his ego, that he knew his response was bad. He knew it was going to fail because he was lying, right? So this misinformation, he knew it was going to be a lie. He knew it was going to be a disaster. I really, truly believe that. And he didn't give a fuck because he doesn't care about the people out in the country.
All he cared about was the fact that it was that if COVID was going to become what he was told it was going to become, people would stop going to his hotels and they would stop spending money in his restaurants, and that it would hit him in the pocketbook. And that's all he cared about. He cared about his own industry and making money whenever in his heart of hearts, he knew that he was doing it because he had $100 million loan coming due. And oh shit, if people don't go to my hotels, I'm not going to be able to pay that loan. And
That's
so,
crazy.
yeah, maybe some people will die. Remember when he said 15 people got it?
Yeah,
And then
it'll just go away. It'll just
go
magically
away by
Easter.
Easter.
Gone by Easter.
Not 900,000 people.
Well,
are
it's
dead.
it's so much like Ron DeSantis. I don't know if you guys saw this, but the other day there was an interview or
when he was huffing and puffing his way through it.
well, yeah, it was after that, but he basically he expressed regret on Trump shutting down the country like he did. So I guess Ron DeSantis was part of this like early response team with the president, and the one thing that he regrets that Trump did was shut down the country when he did. And the man is, I mean, for someone who's like, he continues to just fail and fail and fail again and shit, just like make a complete shit show of the state. But to now, after clearly getting COVID and struggling and having people die and like just fumbling the ball each time, he then has the audacity to go, you know what? I still regret Trump closing the country down early. And it's like, if he would not have, and you know, if he would have actually followed through, we wouldn't be in the situation we are, hopefully less. But if he had not shut it down, I can only imagine what the fuck would have happened.
Yeah, well, he just let 1 million tests expire. COVID
Yeah.
tests
Oh, yeah.
because
Well, that's
they would have jacked his numbers up, and so it's the whole. Well, if you don't test, then you won't have cases. Ideology that makes absolutely no sense, because when it comes down to it, in the long run, numbers don't mean anything. None of the numbers are correct anyway. The numbers are probably way more than what numbers are, and they're just numbers. And so ultimately, it's about people. Like, how about keeping people safe? He made the comment the other day about like nobody ever goes to the doctor to preemptively keep from getting sick. You only go get tested after you're feeling symptoms. It's like, what the fuck do you think a mammogram is, or a colonoscopy,
or just like a normal annual checkup?
Anything, just checkups in general. That's what a checkup is. And so anybody in their right mind, or anybody, you know, with that goes to the doctor, that's why they're going. If they're not sick, they're going to make sure they don't get sick. And so that statement on its face was so stupid. And then coming from somebody who literally clearly just had a really, really bad case of COVID. And his wife is standing behind him and she has breast cancer.
That's crazy.
Right. Yeah.
It's crazy.
I don't know if it's a willingness or a disregard for the human life.
He treats them like they're absolutely the stupidest humans on the planet. And I can't argue with him. They kind of are.
Yeah. It begs the question, like, you know, are they doing this on purpose? Are they doing it because they've been fed this misinformation? And speaking of that, because I know you know some people who are big spreaders of misinformation, because you've done a film, and I don't know how well you know him, but Kevin Sorbo is one of the biggest.
Good God, I'm so
misinformation.
Man.
And I know you've done a film with him, so I don't know if you know him personally or anything like that. But
met him briefly on the day that we shot. That's about it.
Right.
But I'll tell you, I used to have respect for the guy, and now it just there's none. Yeah. I have no respect for anybody that calls themselves a Christian and then doesn't care about their fellow man. To think for 1 second, just evangelicals in general, that Jesus Christ would approve of all of the hatefulness and the misinformation and the misguided anger, and literally almost calling for the heads of people that are trying to actually help people. It makes me feel like, well, I don't, you know, as I've gotten older, I realize that religion is kind of a joke anyway. I do believe in God because I feel like they're a God energy, but it's a different kind of like ethereal thing. It's not the Bible to me is just a bunch of stories or whatever. But the fact that the most hateful people on the planet in general, including, you know, the Pope and all those idiots, because of, I mean, more people have died because of religion than anything else. Just even what just happened with this hostage situation in Texas, you know, it was
Crazy.
Muslims and Jews. It's all based on this. The people, this, who, you don't believe in my invisible guy? Well, I'm not going to believe in your invisible guy. Well, I'm going to kill you because my invisible guy wants me to kill people because of, and I'm going to go to heaven because of it. The whole thing comes down to the fact that these are the people that call us free-minded people sheep.
Right.
And that's probably the most frustrating thing about the whole thing. They're so, I don't know, empowered by, there's something so weak in them that they need to feel better than other humans. And the only way that they can feel better than other humans is to debase that other human and to make that other human feel less than them in their brains. And it empowers them for some reason to feel that they're for some reason smarter than, or more holy than, or closer to God, or whatever it is. It fulfills this empty hole in their hearts and their psyches, and it ultimately comes from a place of utter weakness. And that's the most bizarre thing about all of it, is that it truly stems from self-consciousness and a lack of pride. You know, it's like it's all put on a pedestal of, oh, I'm so prideful, I'm going to fight for it. But that's not what it is. You have no pride, and so you have to make yourself feel empowered by debasing other people and making them feel less than, because that's the only way you're going to elevate yourself, because you know you're not adequate enough on your own merits. And the psychology behind it, to me, is maddening. And it makes me worry about the world that my children are growing up in. Mm-hmm. Because you know, it's what information is going to make it to their minds and to their brains, and what reality are they going to wind up living in when we keep fucking it up for them? The people that are supposed to be the adults right now are acting like, I would say they're acting like children, but children these days are better behaved than the adults. So they're acting like the worst children, I guess I should say. They're acting like the bully, the playground bullies. And ultimately, when you go back to the psychology of what creates a playground bully, is that they're usually being bullied at home. They're usually being, there's usually something else going on in their house that is awful. And they don't have an outlet for it. They have no way to take it out on anybody. They can't take it out on their parents. They're probably being abused by their parents or whatever. They can't take it out on them, so they go to the school and they take it out on the other children. And it's hurt people. Yeah. And these people continue to want to hurt people. And it's frustrating. It makes me emotional, because there's a deep inherent sadness to what is going on in our country right now. And it all stems from a place of feeling inadequate. And so we have to posture as if we are this great nation of built on strength, whenever they're all just scared children. Hate is fear-based. Hate is fear-based, period. The only reason to hate Black people is because you're scared of them. The only, the only reason to hate gay people is because you're afraid you're gay. Maybe you are. That it's all, none of it is built on actual, like say, even if it was, what the love of Christ. None of it has to do with any of that. But they're the first ones that are leading the charge on hatefulness and judgment of others that have nothing to do with their own lives. And for me, it just is a profound sadness that makes me realize that we are not moving forward as a society, that we are truly going backwards, and it makes me wonder where all this is going to end. Where's it going to end?
Yeah. I totally agree. Go ahead, Gabe.
I was going to say, I mean, like, really does go against, do not cast the first stone, or it's like, well, you guys are the ones who are going to do that. And whether it's through it's a source of confusion or hate or just like an understanding of another fellow human being, because, whatever it is, but just with that bully mentality, like you said, they're unable to find an outlet to understand why that's happening to them or whatever. But instead, then they just reflect that onto another person, because if I feel like shit, then the only way for me to feel better based on this pattern is to make someone else feel like shit. And what ends up happening is we just continue to go at each other. And
Exactly
it is one of those things. It is sad. And like,
It's the whole, what Sally says about Susie says more about Sally than it does about Susie. It's the people that are projecting all of this hatefulness ultimately can't stand themselves. They have to do something to try to make themselves feel better about who they are. And at the crux of all of it, they are scared little wimps. They are these.
Isn't that Trumpism, though? Isn't that Trumpism?
100%. It's Trumpism. Donald Trump is one of the most insecure humans on the face of the planet. Why do you think that he immediately goes towards anybody that compliments him? He said something nice about Joe Biden when Joe Biden gave him credit for the goddamn vaccine. He finally was just like, "Well, it was actually pretty nice." So if all
I
of
like
this
Joe,
time,
I like Joe. Yeah, let's go, Brandon. I like
time,
Joe.
And that's another thing, that let's go, Brandon thing. What a wimpy, cowardly way to say something that means nothing. You think that Joe Biden gives a fuck that anybody's saying anything about a dude named Brandon? Like, we actually have a president he's got a spine. He doesn't need to waste time on any of that shit. It's the same reason that like Rachel Maddow won't debate Madison Cawthorn, because she's not going to give the guy the stage, but she knows it would be such an annihilation and waste of her time. Could you imagine? I mean, what a frivolous waste of time.
Well, it's the same.
For somebody.
Same reason why AOC won't give Marjorie Taylor Greene the time, right? Marjorie Taylor Greene wants to debate. Because here's at the end of the day, it's like whatever's going to happen, they're going to deny that they lost or didn't know what they were talking about. Then they'll also
can't change that,
right? And so what ends up happening is you give this person who shouldn't be validated, who should not be in office either, but you give this person, you give them a platform. It validates the thing that they're saying, puts it on a national stage, if not larger, and then when it doesn't go their way, they spin it and they say it was unfair, I was cheated, or you know what, the footage is doctored.
Right, some shit.
The Republicans are now saying that their future potential presidents or whatever, the Republicans aren't going to be allowed to debate, to participate in the debates.
Yeah,
can you imagine?
Making sure they won't.
They know ultimately that it's because we've got so much material that can be used against them now that they know it will all be brought up in the course of those debates, and they have no leg to stand on. And so they know that they're walking into a fire with no fire hose that they've created for themselves. They lit the fire. And now they've done so many stupid and egregious things that they know that any one of those things will make them look stupid in a public forum. And so they're just saying, well, we're going to avoid the public forum because we don't want to have to be called out on our bullshit. And that's the only reason.
Don't you think the other thing too is, Jeremy, don't you think the other thing too is that they don't have what are they going to debate? What policy are they going to debate?
Right.
Which one?
There is
they
no
don't have any policy. They have
They're,
nothing. What are they going to keep saying, that the fucking election was stolen?
How many times
can they repeat the same horse shit whenever their own reevaluation of all of these votes just proves to be more votes for Joe Biden.
That is such a great point.
That
is such a great point.
It's just oh my god.
They had the rally in Arizona, and Steve Bannon was on his Trader TV, and he was talking. That's what I call it, his Trader TV. He was talking about
it's just
right. But he was talking about how somehow this was going to be this rally. That somehow the rally was going to be the start of the decertification of results. I don't understand how that works, but the rally is going to be the start of decertification.
There's not even a way to do that in our Constitution.
Right. Well,
there's nothing in our Constitution that even allows for that.
It harkened back to me what you said about losing so many times. I was like, this is like when I actually tweeted it. I was like, this is like the 1990 to 1993 Bills trying to go overturn the Super Bowl. Like you are 400 and some odd days past the election. You are talking about things that do not exist. And you lost not once, not twice, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. You've lost this election in Arizona, and you think him going and speaking in a field somewhere in bumfuck nowhere in Arizona is going to start the decertification process? And people not only believing it, but are sending Steve Bannon money to continue to say this garbage. I'm like, people are fucking lost. You're fucking
Steve
lost.
Bannon's a genius. He knows.
Oh, absolutely. That's the
and he's
scary
just like
about
Alex
him.
Jones. Alex Jones is one of the smartest humans on the planet. Or Alex Jones is not an idiot. He does not believe anything's going to turn a frog gay. He knows the people that are going to give him money will believe that something's going to turn a frog gay.
Right.
So he is playing them like a fiddle. These guys are evil, no doubt about it. But they're evil geniuses. And it's because they know they're dealing with the biggest fucking idiots on the planet. Listen, even Donald Trump years ago said if he ever ran for president, he would run as a Republican because those people are idiots. This was when he was a Democrat. This was back when, Donald Trump used to be a Democrat.
Well, I don't think he's ever really anything. Donald Trump's whatever he needs to be in the
it's
room,
all about,
you know
about
what I mean?
Donald Trump. 100%
exactly.
right. But he certainly was not the Christ of the Republican Party.
Right.
And I also want to point out that Donald Trump said that after election, he was like, if I lose, I'll go. And then after that, obviously didn't leave.
That's because he doesn't want. But he won't admit that he lost. I mean,
right?
That,
exactly.
You know.
But he also said that he was going to start his own party, and then he was like, no, that'll cost too much money. I'm just going to keep fucking scamming.
I would love to take about 15, 20 minutes to come up with names that we could come up with for Donald Trump's new party that he was going to have, but we don't have a lot of time. Jeremy, I appreciate you coming on the show and with the fuck 'em attitude at the end, because that's the kind of attitude we like to have here on the show, is the fuck 'em attitude. Here's what I'll ask. Why don't you shamelessly plug your jellies and jams? Go ahead and plug that, and anything else you'd like to shamelessly plug for us. We'll try to get it in for you.
Oh my goodness, man. My lady, Leslie, and I, we started a company called London's Most Wanted, and you can find us on Etsy. And we have pepper jellies that are out of this world. We've got 3 different types we've got Cowboy, Outlaw, and our special edition Outlaw. The Cowboy's sweet, Outlaw is hot, and our special edition Outlaw will blow your asshole out, but it is awesome. It's so hot, and
that's a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, my friend.
Man, I'll tell you, what's great is that here in Mississippi, pepper jelly is it's a staple, and we've had grandmas here who've been making pepper jelly since like 1934 tell us that our pepper jelly is the best they've ever had.
Oh, that's got to be a good feeling.
And stuff like that. So that's a wonderful feeling to get those ladies, these diehard Mississippi Southern belles telling us that it's the best they've ever had, is great. I mean, we've sold thousands of jars of this stuff, and I make every jar of it myself. We label every jar of it ourselves. I sign every jar, by the way.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, anyone out there listening, go check out the Etsy store.
London's Most Wanted. And then I've got a movie coming up called Open that I'm the lead in. That's going to be a lot of fun. I'm also just booked this movie with Mickey Rourke called The Hunt Club. I'm also producing and co-directing a movie right now called Interfere, and I have an acting school called London Arts Acting School, and I have been honored enough to be able to put my actors, my students, in several movies now, and 85% of the actors in this movie interfere are my students, and they're just kicking ass and doing great. And so I'm not only able to teach them how to act, but I'm able to put them in movies as well. And it's been incredibly rewarding.
That's fantastic, Jeremy. I like that you're passing.
But thank you guys for having me on, man.
Hey,
thank you for coming on the show.
Everyone, go visit the Etsy store. Go check out Jeremy's new movies. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this break.
Thank you.
You sit your ass down.
Sit the flip down.
We're not finished. The Tony Michaels Podcast. We'll be right back.
Headline. President Joe Biden delivers a $1.2 trillion American infrastructure bill that pays for roads, bridges, and high-speed fucking internet. Thanks, Brandon.
Tony Michaels Podcast. Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central. Watch live on YouTube, on Twitter and Twitch. Download on Apple and Spotify. Now, here's Tony.
Welcome back to the show. What a great interview with Sir Jeremy London. What a lot of fun. You got your ass kicked, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Well, right. I'm just saying, I
put up a bit of a fight there.
That is true. That is true. For you did get a few licks in on the trivia, even though it was Jeremy. So I thought it was a great interview. I was glad to have Jeremy on. I'd have him back again to shoot the shit about.
I'm sure he has plenty of stories.
Oh, I know he probably does have plenty of stories out there, especially running around this red state. Because I run around the red state all the time, and I have plenty of stories here from these knuckleheads that run around here. So I do want to go back to, let's go to the floor. They are still talking here. Steve Daines, Republican of Montana. So they are still debating on the floor. I don't know exactly what time they're going to vote or if they got a time yet. I don't know how far they are in the debate, but I just want to show everybody that they still are debating over there on the floor. So if you go to cspan.com, you can go and look up, or cspan.org, cspan.org. Just Google C-SPAN and go on there. They should have the live feed there of the Senate floor. If you want to watch them debate, you want to watch these Republicans talk about how you shouldn't have voting rights and how the Democrats are the only ones actually delivering voting rights to you because Republicans destroy and Democrats deliver. That's just how it works in this country. So we have to stay pissed. We have to go fucking vote, and we got to have strategic outrage. So great show today. I'm really excited about moving the 2 hours to the different time slot, the noon Eastern time slot. I think a lot more people will be able to watch in that time period. So super excited about that. So stay tuned next week, but come back tomorrow for the Shit List Roundup. It's at noon Eastern, 11 Central. We'll do it just like we do every day in 1 hour. And then Friday, we'll have a 2 hour show on Friday because we get the Shit List Roundup at noon Eastern. And then the second hour, we will have the Bonehead of the Week. So stay tuned for that. We usually do that on the weekend, but we talked about this, Gabe. I think what we're going to do is we'll do the Bonehead on Friday, and then we'll go ahead and still release the Bonehead of the Week on the weekend. So you'll get to see it twice. You'll get to see it on the podcast, but then if you like to watch it on the weekend as a
if you missed it, then you'll be able to get just the Bonehead of the Week on Sunday.
I did post last week's on the YouTube channel, but I didn't air it live on the weekend. So we'll cut it, we'll air it live, so that way you can watch it live, or you can go back and watch it on YouTube. But speaking of that, go subscribe to the YouTube channel so you don't miss anything. Because all the stuff's over there. The Shit List Roundup, all the Bonehead of the Weeks are over there. There's playlist and also the podcast. And don't forget to download the podcast on your favorite directory, Spotify, Apple, and Google. All those directories out there. So we got over 2 hours in today. I really appreciate Jeremy coming on the show. It was
it was a blast to have on the show. So I just want to say, if he's watching right now, or if anyone wants to relay the message online, thank you for coming on the show, man.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, The heartthrob from Mallrats, and I didn't know this till we were off air chatting on Twitter. But did you know there's a ton of Mallrat gifs? There's a ton of them. There's a ton of Mallrat gifs on Twitter. So go see, you can go see Jeremy in Mallrats on those gifs. I actually posted one so that someone could see. So thanks a lot for coming on the show, Gabe. Do you have anything else you'd like to add before you?
I think so.
Before we head out here,
fuck them.
Fuck them.
You've been listening to the Tony Michaels Podcast. In your face commentary of current events and political news. No rules, no boundaries. I think we've made that perfectly clear. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll be back soon. In the meantime, follow Tony on social media at The Tony Michaels. And until next time, raise a fist and repeat after me. Fuck 'em.